Hard truths you must know. Why I regret moving into a nursing home. I never thought I'd be the one sitting here telling you this. I really didn't. For most of my life, I prided myself on being independent, strong, able to handle anything that came my way. Like so many of you watching right now, I had this image of aging gracefully. Maybe slowing down a little, sure, but never giving up my freedom, never trading in my voice for a neatly folded hospital gown and a schedule taped to a wall. And yet, there I was, standing at the threshold of a nursing home, suitcase in hand, heart full of hope and hesitation. I told myself it was for the best, that I needed the help, that I would still be me. But what I didn't realize is how fast your identity can start slipping through your fingers once you hand over the keys to your life. Now let me be clear. I'm not here to bash every nursing home out there. I'm not here to judge anyone who's made that decision, whether for themselves or for a loved one. I'm here because I wish someone had told me the truth, not the pamphlet version, not the rehearsed sales pitch, but the real, raw, honest-to-God truth about what it feels like to live in a place where your name is often replaced by your room number and your choices are quietly exchanged for convenience. I'm sharing this because maybe you're at that crossroads right now. Maybe you're wondering if it's time. Maybe someone you love is bringing it up more and more. And I want you to be prepared. Not scared, not bitter, but clear-eyed and strong. Because the truth is, it's not just about where you live. It's about how you live, and more importantly, if you feel alive while doing it. In this video, I'll take you into my journey, the expectations I had, the surprises I never saw coming, and the 5 hard truths that changed everything for me. These aren't just my truths. They're truths I've heard whispered in hallways, shared over late-night cups of tea, and cried into the silence of rooms that once echoed with laughter. This is not just a story of regret. It's a wake-up call. It's a reminder that dignity doesn't come from the walls that surround you, but from the courage to choose your life with intention. Whether you're aging, caring for someone who is, or simply wondering what lies ahead, I invite you to lean in, listen close, and let this message stir something in you. Because it's never too late to ask, is this really how I want to live? And if the answer is no, then friend, it's time to talk about what's next. Are you ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why the promise of care isn't always what it seems. You walk into the building for the first time, and everything seems so calm. There's soft music playing in the background. Someone at the front desk greets you with a smile, and a nurse walks by offering a cup of tea to an elderly resident in a wheelchair. On the surface, it feels like peace, safety, maybe even luxury. But let me tell you what they don't show you on that first tour. They don't show you the loneliness that creeps in between scheduled activities. They don't show you the subtle way decisions start being made for you, not with malice, but with routine. They don't show you how quickly the label of resident starts to outweigh your name, your preferences, your individuality. I came in thinking I'd be cared for. I thought I'd have more help, more rest, more connection. But instead, I found out that being cared for sometimes means being controlled. You eat at this time, you shower at this time, you take your pills, and then you wait. There's a lot of waiting. Waiting for the next meal, the next check-in, the next family visit, and somewhere in all of that structure, you begin to feel like you're losing your ability to choose anything that really matters. Let's be honest. Most people don't talk about this because we're told to be grateful. At least you're safe. At least you're fed. At least you're not alone. But let me ask you, what good is being safe if you feel invisible? What good is being fed if you're starving for dignity, for freedom, for purpose? I'm not saying all nursing homes are the same. I've met some truly incredible caregivers. But even the best intentions can't change the system. And the system, my friend, was not designed to nurture individuality. It was designed to manage it. And if you're not careful, you start believing that this is what life is now. You start shrinking into the version of yourself that fits the schedule, the system, the silence. You stop asking for things you like. You stop speaking up when something feels wrong. And the worst part? You stop expecting anything to change. That's when regret starts to settle in. Not all at once, but slowly, like fog creeping over a field. So hear me clearly. If you or someone you love is considering this path, do it with eyes wide open. Don't fall in love with the brochures. Talk to the residents. Listen to what they're not saying. Ask the hard questions. Because what looks like peace can sometimes be a well-decorated prison. And once you move in, getting back to yourself isn't always easy. Chapter 2. The loss of autonomy hits harder than you expect. One of the hardest things for me to come to terms with was just how much of my life I no longer got to control. At first, I brushed it off. I thought, well, this is just how things are done here. It's not forever. But the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. And that small loss of autonomy started chipping away at my spirit. You see, autonomy isn't just about big choices like where you live or how you spend your money. It's about the small things. What time you wake up. What kind of coffee you like. Whether you feel like staying in your room or sitting outside. Whether you want to talk or just be left alone. When those little decisions start getting made for you, because it's easier, faster, or part of policy, you begin to feel less like a person and more like a patient. It's not intentional cruelty. It's efficiency. It's well-meaning people trying to keep things running smoothly. But in the process, your preferences get replaced with procedures. And after a while, you stop voicing what you want because you know it probably won't happen anyway. You don't want to be difficult. You don't want to be the complainer. So you stay quiet. And that silence becomes your new normal. Let me tell you something important. You were never created to be passive. You were created with a will, a mind, a soul meant to engage with life. The moment you stop participating in the decisions of your own existence, something inside you begins to wither. That's the slow death no one talks about. Not of the body, but of the spirit. When I first moved into the nursing home, I thought I'd feel supported. What I didn't expect was to feel managed. There's a big difference. Being supported means someone helps you do the things you want to do. Being managed means someone decides what you're going to do and when. And no matter how kindly it's done, it still leaves a mark. So if you're thinking about this kind of transition, don't just ask, will I be safe? Ask, will I still have a voice here? Ask, will I still have the freedom to be me? Because once that freedom starts slipping away, getting it back takes a fight. A fight not everyone still has the strength to win. And if you're watching this because you care for someone who's aging, let this be your gentle reminder. They may be quiet, but they're still there. Their desires still matter. Their voice still matters. Don't let the structure silence their soul, because at the end of the day, no matter where we live, we all just want to feel like we still matter. Like we still belong to ourselves. Chapter 3. Loneliness doesn't always look like you think it does. When most people hear the word loneliness, they picture someone sitting by themselves, maybe staring out a window or waiting for someone to visit. But let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Loneliness in a nursing home can exist even in a room full of people. It's not about being physically alone. It's about feeling emotionally forgotten. You can be surrounded by nurses, caregivers, activity directors, even other residents, and still feel like no one really sees you. They see your chart. They know your room number. They remember that you like your tea with honey. But do they know what breaks your heart? Do they know what still gives you hope? Do they know the life you've lived before you ended up here? That's the loneliness no one prepares you for. The kind that whispers, "You don't matter anymore." And after a while, you start to believe it. You stop sharing your stories because you feel like nobody really cares. You stop reaching out because the effort feels too heavy. You start fading into the background, a shadow of who you were, all because you don't want to be a burden. People think having weekly bingo or movie nights is enough to cure isolation. But loneliness isn't about entertainment. It's about connection. It's about being known, understood, valued. And when those things start to disappear, something inside you grows quiet. You begin to feel more like a number and less like a name. Let me say this to anyone watching. Do not underestimate the power of presence. You don't need to fix everything. Sometimes just sitting with someone, listening to them talk about their childhood, their regrets, their dreams. They may not say it, but that could mean more than you'll ever know. That could be the moment they stop feeling invisible. If you're in a season of life where you feel unseen, unloved, or forgotten, I want you to hear me clearly. You still matter. Your life still has weight. Your story still deserves to be heard. Don't let the silence around you convince you that your voice doesn't matter. It does. You do. And for those with aging parents, grandparents, or neighbors, don't just ask them how they're feeling physically. Ask them how they're doing inside. Ask them what they miss. Ask them what they wish people still ask them about. Sometimes one conversation can remind someone they're still alive, not just breathing, but living. Chapter 4. When dignity is treated like a luxury. There's a certain quiet pain that comes from needing help with basic things. Things you've done your whole life. Getting dressed, taking a shower, going to the bathroom. And in a nursing home, these tasks are done by strangers, often rushed, always routine. It's not anyone's fault, really. It's just the nature of the system. But here's what no one talks about. What it feels like to lose your dignity one small moment at a time. You don't want to be a bother, so you wait a little longer than you should before asking for help. You feel embarrassed when someone has to clean you, not because they're unkind, but because you remember when you used to help others. You used to be strong, capable, independent. And now you wait. You ask. You apologize for being human. That's the wound that doesn't show up in medical records. The slow erosion of dignity. There's nothing shameful about aging. There's nothing shameful about needing help. But the way our world treats dependence, as something to be pitied rather than honored, makes people feel like their value disappears the moment their body slows down. Let me be honest with you. There were days I cried in silence, not from pain, but from shame. Shame that I couldn't do things myself. Shame that my body was betraying me. Shame that my worth seemed to shrink every time I needed to press that call button. But here's what I had to remember, and what I want you to remember too. Needing help doesn't make you less. Being vulnerable doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, it takes incredible strength to keep showing up, to keep asking for what you need, to keep choosing dignity in a world that sometimes forgets to offer it. If you're caring for someone, let me urge you, look them in the eyes. Speak to them with respect, not routine. Don't just get it done. Be present. Let them know their personhood is still intact, even if their body is not. Because every single soul under that roof still remembers who they once were, and they're hoping you'll remember too. And if you're the one living through this, don't lose your voice. Don't lose your pride. You still have every right to be treated with honor. Demand it, gently but firmly, because dignity isn't a luxury. It's a birthright. Chapter 5. The pain of being treated like a patient, not a person. One of the hardest things to come to terms with when you move into a nursing home is how quickly your identity shifts. You're no longer a father or mother first, not an artist, not a teacher, not a veteran, not a dreamer. You become room 304, or the hip replacement, or the diabetic. You become a chart. A list of medications, a schedule of care. Now don't get me wrong. Most of the staff are doing their best. Many of them care deeply. But when the system is designed to move fast, stay efficient, and check boxes, the person often gets buried under the protocols. And suddenly you go from being someone to something, a task to manage, a routine to follow, a bed to turn. That is where the real ache begins. You know, there were days when I just wanted someone to ask me about my favorite movie, or what I used to do on Sundays, or how I met my spouse. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted conversation. I didn't need someone to pity me. I needed someone to remember I'm still me. We all want to be seen, heard, and valued. It doesn't change with age. It doesn't stop when you put on a hospital gown. Inside every elderly person is the full version of who they've always been, still alive, still hoping for connection. But when you're treated more like a checklist than a human being, it does something to your spirit. If you work in elder care, or you have loved ones in a facility like this, let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw them? Not their medical needs, not their behavior reports, not their complaints, but them, their smile, their story, their dreams, even now. You know what I wish someone had told me more often in there? Tell me about your life. I wish they had looked me in the eye and said, you matter. Because when you feel like nothing more than a patient, it's easy to forget you're still a person. And if you're the one feeling like this right now, I want you to know, you are so much more than your diagnosis. You're not a number. You're not a file. You're a soul with value that doesn't expire. Don't let the world shrink your identity to what's wrong with you. You are still you. And you are still here for a reason. Chapter 6. The freedom you give up is bigger than you realize. Before I moved into the nursing home, I never thought about how much freedom I actually had. The freedom to decide when to get out of bed, what to eat, what to wear, whether I wanted quiet or noise, whether I wanted company or solitude. You don't think about those things until they're gone. At first, it seems small. A nurse wakes you at 7 a.m. instead of 8 because that's the schedule. Breakfast is served at a set time, and you don't get to choose what's on your plate unless you make a special request. Someone else picks your clothes because it's easier. You're wheeled to activities whether you feel like it or not because it keeps the day moving. But the more those little freedoms are taken, the more you start to feel like a passenger in your own life. It's hard to describe how it feels to lose autonomy. It's not just inconvenience, it's a slow erosion of identity. You begin to question your place in the world. You begin to feel helpless, powerless. You begin to forget what it feels like to decide something for yourself. And that does something to your confidence, your spirit, your will. We weren't made to live that way. And listen, I understand that structure is necessary in places like these. There are many people to care for, and routines help keep things running. But there must be room for choice. There must be dignity in allowing people to still have a say in how they live their life, even if it's just choosing between scrambled or boiled eggs. If you're caring for someone, don't underestimate the power of offering options. Don't decide for them unless you absolutely have to. Ask them, involve them, empower them, because every small choice they make is a reminder that they still have agency, they still have value, they still belong to themselves. And if you're in this season yourself, don't stop fighting for your freedom, not with anger, but with courage. Ask questions. Speak up. Remember your voice, because the moment you stop choosing, you start disappearing. And your life, my friend, is far too precious to live on autopilot. You may be in a place where the walls are fixed, where the routines are tight, but your spirit is still free. Don't let anyone or anything convince you otherwise. Chapter 7. Loneliness. Hits different in a crowd. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Being surrounded by people doesn't mean you won't feel lonely. In fact, some of the loneliest days of my life were spent in a room filled with other people. Staff coming and going. Residents sitting nearby, TVs blaring in the background, but inside, silence. A deep, echoing silence that no noise could reach. Because real connection isn't about proximity, it's about presence. You see, in a nursing home, people are everywhere, but everyone is on a different page. Staff are busy, residents are tired. Some can't speak, others don't want to. You might sit in a common room with 10 other people, and not one meaningful word is spoken all day. That kind of loneliness sneaks up on you. It wears you down. You start wondering, does anyone actually see me anymore? Not just my body in the chair, not my name on the chart. Me, the one who used to dance, the one who used to laugh too loud, the one who made bad coffee and told corny jokes. You wonder if that version of you is gone, or if anyone would notice if it was. And I'll be honest, it's not just the environment. It's also what happens when the visits slow down, when the phone doesn't ring, when holidays pass without a knock on your door. People get busy. Life moves on. But for those of us in places like this, time can feel frozen, like we're watching the world go by through a thick glass window. But here's the truth. Loneliness is not a life sentence. It's a signal to reach out, to speak up, to ask for what your soul needs. Whether that's a real conversation, a new friendship, a visit, or even just 5 minutes of eye contact and listening. We weren't made to go through life unseen. And even now, no matter your age or health, you deserve connection. You deserve to belong. If you know someone in a nursing home, visit them. And when you do, don't just talk, listen. Ask questions that matter. Remind them of who they are. Because your time, your attention, your care, that might be the lifeline they've been silently waiting for. And if you're the one who's lonely, hear me clearly. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are still worthy of love, of laughter, of friendship. There are people out there who need what you carry inside. Don't give up on them finding you. Or on you finding them. Chapter 8. What really matters becomes crystal clear. When everything else is stripped away, the house, the car, the job title, the schedule, the noise, what remains? That's what you start asking yourself when you live in a place like this. When your world shrinks to a single room and your days are built on repetition, the distractions fall away. And what you're left with is the truth. The truth about what really matters. And spoiler alert, it's not what most of us spend our lives chasing. It's not the bank account, not the achievements. Not how many people know your name or how many likes you got on your last post. None of that follows you into these halls. It fades. Fast. What stays? Relationships. Character, faith, kindness. Forgiveness, the love you gave away. The peace you carried inside. That's what lasts. You start to see it clearly. The times you held a grudge that wasn't worth it. The moments you chose work over your family. The times you were too afraid to say how you felt. The pride that kept you from making that one phone call. Those become the regrets that echo in the quiet. But here's the beautiful part. It's never too late to live by what truly matters. I've seen people in their 80s mend decades-old relationships. I've watched hearts soften, old wounds heal. even in places that seem forgotten by the outside world. You still have time. If you're breathing, you have time. Don't wait for life to corner you to realize what's important. Take inventory now. Who do you need to forgive? Who do you need to call? What do you need to let go of? What do you need to hold closer? At the end of the day, we all leave this world with nothing in our hands, only what we gave away in love, in truth, in grace. That's the legacy that matters. That's what follows you long after you're gone. And let me tell you something I wish I'd fully understood before I moved into that nursing home. Peace doesn't come from what you have. It comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and who you've loved along the way. So make the shift now. Live with clarity. Love with intention. Focus on what actually matters. Because one day, when everything else falls away, that's what will be left. And that's what will define your story. Chapter 9. You start. Measuring life in moments, not years. There's something that changes inside of you when the calendar on your wall becomes more about doctor appointments than future plans. When birthdays come and go with less fanfare. When New Year's resolutions don't really matter because you're just focused on today. That's when you begin to understand. Life isn't measured in years, it's measured in moments. Real, human, soul-igniting moments. Moments when your grandchild wraps their arms around you without saying a word. When someone remembers your name after only meeting you once. When someone holds your hand and doesn't let go first. When you hear a piece of music that takes you back decades and you feel like you're there again, that's life. That's what counts. I used to chase time. I lived by the clock. I was always looking ahead, pushing toward the next goal, the next achievement, the next level. I thought that more time would mean more joy. But now I know. It's not about more time. It's about being present in the time you already have. Some of the most meaningful conversations I've had didn't last long. Some of the most healing moments came from a single sentence. Some of the biggest laughs happened in the smallest of rooms, with people most would overlook. You don't need a big stage to live a meaningful life. You don't need thousands of followers to make an impact. What you need is the ability to be fully here. To stop waiting for the perfect moment and realize that this, right here, right now, is sacred. Start measuring your life in smiles, in real hugs, in how many people you encouraged this week, in how deeply you listened, in how honestly you prayed, in how bravely you apologized. That's the scale that matters. So take this from someone who has learned it the hard way. Stop counting years. Start collecting moments. They are the real currency of life, and the beauty is, you don't have to wait until you're older to start living this way. Chapter 10. What I'd do differently if I could go back. If I could rewind the tape, not to change the course of history, but just to live more intentionally, I would do things differently. I'd worry less. I'd forgive faster. I'd say, I love you more. I wouldn't care so much about what people thought, and I'd care a whole lot more about what I thought of myself when I looked in the mirror. I'd spend more time outside, more time holding hands, more time listening to stories. I'd call my mom just to hear her voice. I'd laugh more. I'd cry without shame. I'd let myself be human instead of trying to always be strong. I would protect my peace with everything I had. I wouldn't chase relationships that drained me or pretend to be someone I wasn't just to fit in. I'd be bold with my dreams and gentle with my words. I'd show up earlier. Stay longer. Say thank you louder. But here's the thing. Even though I can't go back, I can still move forward differently. And so can you. Regret is a powerful teacher. It doesn't have to chain you to the past. It can guide you into a better future. If you've made mistakes, welcome to the club. If you've missed opportunities, you're not alone. What matters now is what you do next. You don't have to wait until you're in a hospital bed or a nursing home chair to decide what really matters. You can decide now. You can reach out now. You can forgive now. You can change now. Let my hindsight become your foresight. Let my pain become your permission to live boldly, love deeply, and speak truthfully while you still can. Life has always been fragile, but it's also beautifully full of second chances. So take one, or take 10. As long as you're breathing, the pen is still in your hand. And your story? It's still being written. Conclusion. This wasn't the ending I wanted, but it's the lesson I needed. If you're still with me, then you've heard my heart. You've walked with me through 10 chapters of truth, not the kind you find in polished speeches or perfect Instagram captions, but the kind that stares you in the face when the world gets quiet and all the noise falls away. This wasn't the ending I planned for myself. But sometimes the most important lessons in life aren't handed to you wrapped in gold. They're dug out of the dirt, through tears, through regrets, and through grace. I never imagined I'd spend these years in a nursing home. I thought I'd be traveling, laughing, sitting around a dinner table with family every Sunday. I thought I'd be full of energy, surrounded by people who knew my stories by heart. But that's not what happened. And as painful as it was at first, I've realized something powerful. Just because life didn't go the way I wanted, doesn't mean it didn't go the way it needed to. I've met people here who changed me. People with wisdom, with wounds, with wild stories and gentle souls. I've had time to reflect in a way I never did before. I've had to sit with myself, truly sit, with the silence, the memories, the missed chances, and the quiet victories. And in all of that, I've come to believe something you need to hear right now. You don't have to end up where I did to learn what I've learned. You don't have to wait until your days are numbered to start living like they matter. You don't have to hit rock bottom to start rising. You can choose to love harder today. You can make the call. You can let go of bitterness. You can walk away from what's breaking you. You can open your heart and risk the pain, because that's where the beauty is. I may not have the ending I dreamed of, but I have a voice, and I'm using it. Because if these words find you, then maybe they can lift you. Maybe they can wake you up before life does it the hard way. Maybe my regrets can become your reason to live wide open. So what now? Take inventory of your life. Get honest. Who do you need to forgive? Who do you need to love better? What dream have you buried that it's time to resurrect? Where are you hiding when you should be stepping forward? Don't waste your time waiting for a perfect day. There's no such thing. There's only today, and that's more than enough to begin again. This world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real ones. People willing to feel, to speak, to stumble, to try again. People who lead with their hearts and leave behind light. So live your life with such passion and purpose that when you do reach your final chapter, it won't be filled with regret. It'll be filled with meaning, with impact, with love that outlives you. You don't get to control the ending, but you do get to control the story. Make it one worth telling.